On Blues Radio International, we now transport you magically to Belgrade, Serbia for our friend Katarina Pejak. Hi, Katarina.
Hi, Jess, and hi to everybody who's listening.
We're so glad to have you with us today. I'm sorry that, unlike our past experiences together, we're socially distanced, but we can't wait to hear what you're going to play for us. What would you like to start with?
I'm going to start with a song that Blues Radio International listeners already know from my previous time on your show. It's called She's Coming After You, and it's from my album Rosa Cross. Must have made a damn good offer, 'cause she always takes the best. She loves just like the devil's daughter, walks like a barrels. While there's no wind, and as young as the morning dew, I nursed him sad, 'cause she's coming home. Guess you couldn't have resisted when she stepped out of the smoke, and I pretended that I missed it, still a prisoner. But as you sit and whisper harder, I can only say bye-bye, 'cause she's coming home. And it's over. Then the Bible, I'll chase you and you'll chase me too. Survivor, survivor, right away, survivor. It's classic, the song. Make the face white when I'm home, and I'll keep hoping for tomorrow, 'cause it's bound to come along. The streets are living every side. Yes, I can only hope she stumbles, 'cause she's coming home. Classic, the soul. Made my face wild when I'm old. Keep hoping for tomorrow, 'cause it's bound to come along. And now the streets are there being every side. Yes, ooh, I can only hope she stumbles, 'cause she's coming home. She stumbles, 'cause she's coming after you, Ooh.
Beautiful. Really nice. What's it like having made this transition when we all hit this full stop? You were traveling around the world and playing in front of audiences in a variety of different settings, and some very big ones and as well as smaller clubs. And now you're in this situation. What's that transition like for you?
It's definitely a big change, especially in the mindset, living in a state where you don't really know what your next 6 months are going to be like. Not that any of us ever know that for sure, but now there's nothing to hold on to. I've been trying to replace the performing and the touring side of things with the social network participation and trying to really engage my fan base and reach out to people and find kindred people out there. And I think it's not the same, but it has its own beauty and its own advantages. So I want to be positive and say that I definitely find something worthwhile in this kind of remote musical career pursuits.
Yeah, in an interesting way, even though we're not playing in front of the audiences that you played in front of before, you're playing in front of a much broader audience. And there are people watching now in places who would never have the chance to see you live, much less see you in this beautiful, intimate setting where we can really talk to you and see you play close up. So there are some positive things. One thing that I'd be interested in your perspective on as a performer, though, is all performers on stage take cues from their audience. You see people smiling, laughing, maybe not paying attention, maybe crying. That's all feedback that filters into your performance and obviously informs the way you perform. What do you have to replace that now when you're doing it on social media?
I think now there's the element of being alone, but having the feeling of being watched is something I must say is quite bizarre. I've definitely felt stage fright doing the Facebook Live performances. I've done them for making a scene. I've done them in my own setup for my Facebook page. And even though when you're in front of a live audience, you see people, you see them talking, you see them paying attention or paying less attention. I'm sorry. But on Facebook, you have this new introduction of people commenting in real time as they're listening to you. So with the screen right in front of your face, reading the comments that are straight out of somebody's head. So I think that's an almost next level of performing. Like, imagine if you were in a club with 200 or 500 people, and if you could read everybody's minds, like that's every musician's nightmare, you know. There's a Louis C.K. skit, and I don't know if it's still okay to quote him, but this was quite funny when he was in Madison Square Garden performing for tens of thousands of people, and he said, "There's always like 1,000 of them who are like, nah, it's okay. And I see each and every one of them. It's like there's a spotlight." So now you kind of trip that each and every one of these who are not so thrilled by your performance are just going to sit down and type it up for you to see right away.
Yeah.
Of course, usually people are much more encouraging, and it's a nice exchange.
I was going to say, people who might be too shy to come up to you after a performance and tell you how much they enjoyed it can let you know as it's happening that they're feeling this joy, and that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, and some people are not so obvious in displaying emotions, so this way you sometimes are able to see reactions of people who are just poker face in real life.
I'd love to hear another one of your original compositions if you could share it with us.
Oh, I would love to. Let's do something quite new from this little project that I'm gonna put out next month, and this one's called Flesh and Blood. soft and sweet as milk, pouring out of a dream, gives my heart a thrill to find you next to me. I love you like a star. I look up to you shine. And when you're in my arms, I feel a melody from your every side. I'm the only one in love. I'm the flesh and blood, flesh and blood, flesh and flesh and blood, flesh and sail away tonight on a ship with me. I hope that on your mind you will have this refrain.
Really exceptional. It's so great to hear you. And for our audience who doesn't know your background, I'm sure everyone wants to know how you originally got into music. What led you down this path?
It's a twofold path. One of the reasons I got to love blues and other music of American roots and rock and roll is that my father is a blues promoter and DJ, and I've been surrounded by it pretty much since day one. So it's not a big step out, you know, from my original surroundings. And also, I was classically educated in music, just like many kids in Eastern Europe. When you show some talent, we have music schools that are public and free, and they last for 6 years, and you do that along with your regular kind of primary school education, and then you sort of move on or don't continue. And yeah, that was pretty much it. I played classical music. I wanted to write songs and write my own stuff, and I listened to, you know, Jethro Tull and Led Zeppelin, and later discovered the big ladies of music, Nina Simone and Janis and all those names. So somehow it all kind of blended in together, and I wanted to pursue my own sound.
How did you develop that? Because there are a lot of people who grow up with a background like yours, exposed to blues, who then basically replicate the blues music that we all are so familiar with. And what you've developed is a sound that truly is yours. How did that come about?
Well, first of all, thank you for that comment. That means a lot from coming from somebody who's, God knows, heard how many, you know, how much blues music in his life. Um, I think it's a lifelong quest. I don't think I've reached anything, you know. I think that it's a consequence of just listening to a lot of music. I really don't have many stylistic, I don't really segregate music into genres necessarily. And I know this is a cliche that music can only be good or bad. And of course, I think to say that is maybe overly simplifying things, but I definitely get inspired by a lot of different kinds of music. I grew up far away from the United States, so my cultural and musical influences are also slightly different than a blues musician who's more close to the source. So you can fight that, or you can let it make you unique. And I hope that I'm kind of on a good path towards that uniqueness.
What elements of music from Eastern Europe factor into your sound?
Well, that's a good question, because if you were to analyze, I don't think it's anything very specific. But there's a certain aesthetic that people in the Balkan region and in the Eastern European region tend to gravitate towards. And I think Tom Waits, for example, captures that aesthetic. Tom Waits is somebody who really got me into songwriting and who heavily influenced my sound. It's that kind of harmonic minor key, existential topics, you know, basically some melancholy that even when it's not there, it's still somehow there.
Yeah, and we all identify with that. Sometimes it's hanging in the air, even though we can't touch it or put our finger exactly on what it is.
Right. That's why the blues is such a universal genre. It's because the blues is not actually a genre. It's something that lingers in the air, and you can hear somebody from India or Romania or Britain or anywhere, and you know that they have the blues when you hear it, and you can't exactly put your finger on it.
Well, you do beautiful things with all these influences. What would you like to play next?
I would like to play a cover, if you don't mind.
Please.
And this one goes out to basically anybody who's feeling kind of strange these days. This is called Strange Weather, and it's by Tom Waits. Will you take me across the channel, London Bridge is falling down. A stranger woman tries to say what a man will try to drown. And here's the rain that they predict. It's the forecast every time. The roses die because you picked it. I believe that brand is mine. And all over the world, strangers talk only about the weather. All over the world, it's the same. It's the same.
Excellent. Always nice to hear Tom Waits, but with that beautiful voice, it's a whole new dimension.
Thank you very much.
Now, we talked earlier about how the world has changed around us, and you're not playing in all the places that you played, and were going to be the trajectory of your career. We're not even in crowds on the street. We're so removed from our human experience. How does that affect creativity? You said you're becoming creative in different ways. How does that all work?
That's a really, really hard question because I in my experience, it comes and goes. I'm in another part of the world, so I think the COVID experience varies also depending on where we are, and there are these waves, right? And things are closing down and reopening and closing down and reopening. In Serbia, we've had a really strict curfew in March and April, which was traumatizing, definitely. In the beginning, it felt like some kind of an adventure. Like my grandmother is 90 years old and she remembers World War II, and then she remembers everything after. And I was like, okay, this is my generation's and I'll just be present in this experience and take it for what it is. And I learned guitar. I wrote a little bit while doing that. Then I got kind of back to just playing piano and performing. And then my songwriting just went dead for a couple of months, and it was something I didn't even want to think about. Um, and yeah, I really don't really have a good answer to your question. Um, it's really something that comes and goes. I get inspired by processing the world and things that I notice. I try to stay away from those kind of too current topics because I don't think we can have a good grasp on anything while it's happening. And I don't want to overly simplify anything. Also, I'm not a very emotional writer. I think I tend to intellectualize. So maybe that's something to work on. Maybe now is the time to break down that barrier. I don't know. But yeah, and also I was very fortunate to spend these Corona months still with my loved ones. We've kind of confined into the same circle, and it definitely made things much easier.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. Could we hear another one of yours?
Yes. Do you have a request, or are you gonna let me
What
pick?
inspires you at this very moment?
Well, I think a little bit of soul music is always good and always appropriate. So I'm gonna do a song called Old Pain. It's a soul song that I wrote a long time ago, and it's on my latest album, among other things. If I were to say, never been this happy, I would lie. Yes, I can't live with you. The same expectations that you got in your eyes. Yes, you do. I just got this old. Sometimes heavy like a train. Sometimes knocks me down again, but it's still grace to get through. Something about first love you can never get out of your head. No, you can't. It takes from the next love, leaves you counting all the days for it to end. Sometimes heavy like a train. Sometimes knocks me down again, but it's still grace to get through. Time still goes. Sometimes fast, sometimes slow. I still love you more than you know. I just got this feeling. Sometimes knocks me down again, but I need that breeze to get me through, to get me through. Oh, babe.
We talked about how all music is on a continuum, but you really explore these different edges of the genres very beautifully and still make it your own. I think it's so impressive, and we're really glad you're able to share this. What advice would you have for people who are starting out with music now? Because you've been out there, you're on a record label, you've had those opportunities to have gigs, you have a fan base, and so you go into this in a different setting. What about someone who's starting out? If you take your life back 10 years, if this had happened at that stage, what would you recommend to people who want to play music?
I think my advice is to explore, first of all, their own capacities to the fullest, to never fall out of love with what they're doing, because I think that comes through. And whether it's when you're 20 or 30 or 50 or 86, when you're in love with what you do and you do it with authenticity, that comes through. And I think we're going to reach a new phase of music business, so to speak, where and every other business, I think, too, where I think mass marketing and kind of mass production is gonna slowly take its toll. And I think now is the time to really find your true fan base just by being your most authentic self. That's at least what I'm trying to do. And maybe there would be some more practical advices, but I think this is something people shouldn't lose sight of.
The other thing that has occurred to me is I've seen people stream, and some people are very excited about the numbers of people watching. We all want a lot of people to watch. But I think it lost in that for performers is the fact that the quality of the people watching is more important than the numerosity. You might have thousands of people making 3-second visits to you, but they don't understand your music. They don't even know what the full song sounds like. But there is a nucleus of people that might be a fraction of that total that really are paying attention and are listening to your songs, getting to know you. And developing those people as your lifelong fans is something that's going to pay, I believe, in the future, forward some opportunities that you might not have. And hopefully people will not go into hibernation and will keep connecting, and we'll come up with new ways.
I hope so too. And you've put into words beautifully exactly what I meant to say. The quality of your fan base, let's say, is something that needs to be nurtured more than just the number of tickets sold or number of visits to your profile or whatever that is. People who really get what you're talking about are people who are going to follow you forever and buy or stream or whatever, enjoy your music faithfully.
Now, you also are teaching during this, right?
Yeah, it's an amazingly fortunate opportunity that happened. I'm teaching for Berkeley, Abu Dhabi, collaborating with my friend who kind of put that project into motion, Mesa Kara. She's a wonderful Lebanese singer. So that's also something that I've been doing, and I definitely have a little nerd and a little teacher in me who is now getting her time to shine, maybe more than my performing self.
One thing that I've also come to appreciate in my own isolation here, even more, is that we all need to be in touch with music, not just as listeners, but as participants. And it might be that their person hearing this is never going to achieve anywhere near your level of proficiency playing piano. But I think we all need to have some connection with creation of music. It might be sitting down in a room with no one else present and hitting middle C over and over again with different rhythms in the same finger. But we should all be involved in creating sound and enjoying what happens in our brains when we are involved in creating sound, not just admiring it. And I think you're helping people achieve that, and that's a wonderful thing.
Yeah, music is a wonderful thing, and any level of participation, I think, does wonders for your soul. Basically, I sound a little cheesy, but it's true.
It's very true. I wouldn't be doing this with you today if I didn't believe that. I think it's very healing, and we need more of it. And what you bring to us and to our audience is very beautiful and deep and inspiring. And on that note, I'm hoping you'll take us out with some stupendous piece of music that will have everyone on the floor and crying or laughing or cheering when they're done.
Oh boy. Okay, I will then do also a slightly newer song, and I wrote it sitting right here in my room. I have the fortune of being able to see the river from here. And I'm going to do a song called Silver Little River. It's about staring at the sunset over the water and appreciating some nature, some simple things. Silver little river, sunset's little sister, from a mountain far away. Silver little river, teardrop of the winter, I wanna know what you're saying. Do you fear the ending of heartbreak? Or do you not know it?
Really stunning. And you can see that little river right outside your window.
Yeah.
How beautiful. Katarina Pejak, thank you for joining us from Belgrade with this uplifting music. We've got a lot of darkness around the world, and you just helped us bring a little light to a lot of people who need it. Thank you very much.
Thank you for inviting me. It was a true pleasure to be on the show and to see you and to play some music for everybody who's listening.
Well, we hope to have you back in Studio C, very close to where I'm now sitting, sooner rather than later, and seeing you in person in front of admiring audiences.
Well, that would be just wonderful, and I hope it happens very soon.
Okay. Well, we love you, and take care.
Love you too. Take care. Be safe. See you soon.
Hi there, it's Jesse.
Hey, it's Audrey.
From Blues Radio International. And Audrey, did you know that there is a way to get the government to help you support the musicians you love?
Oh my gosh, I'd like to know more.
It's easy. All you have to do is go to blues.org, make a contribution to the Blues Foundation's Musicians COVID-19 Relief Fund.
That's it?
That's it.
Oh,
the money
my
goes
goodness.
directly to musicians.
Oh,
you
right.
get a tax deduction, and we're going to save the musicians who make the music we love.
Yes.
Let's do it today.
Let's do it right now. Blues.org.